50 things that will happen after the apocalypse in 10 minutes or less. Let's get to it. Without jump cuts, post-production, and memery, most no-talent, introverted YouTubers like myself will be out of a job. Fortunately, there'll be no more auto-tune to make no-talent pop stars sound good, so Drake better learn how to play the guitar. With no $800 billion a year cosmetic industry at their disposal, billions of people will instantly look older and uglier. And once again, thousands of YouTubers who've made a living dressing up as circus clowns to sell cosmetics to wannabe Instagram thoughts will have to find another side hustle. The dogs lucky enough to evade starving humans will form packs and hunt said humans in the cities. This actually happened in Detroit. No lie. The Apocalypse Diet program will be the most successful weight loss program to date, and it will cost you nothing. Anyone lucky enough to survive the initial disaster will likely get in really good physical shape because that's the only way they're going to be able to survive. You ever see those videos of people in the 1970s, like on the Soul Train TV show? Well, that was the only way you had a hope in hell of surviving New York City at the time. That's what people looked like for thousands of years before the high fructose corn syrup revolution. Or should I say devolution. It will be the end of white-collar crime. You see, white-collar criminals are going to be forced into a life of blue-collar crime. Insider traders, wage thieves, fraudsters, racketeers, embezzlers, money launderers, identity thieves, and counterfeiters will be forced into a life of looting, marauding, sexual deviancy, and murder in order to survive. At least that's what they'll tell themselves to justify this behavior. Just like the Victorian era and everything that came before it, voluptuosity and obesity will be signs of wealth once again. The pendulum will swing the other way and skinny shaming will become a thing, although I'm sure it already is. Expect mass migrations in a north to south direction. Otherwise, the hundreds of millions of people who rely on natural gas to heat their homes in the wintertime will likely freeze to death. The apocalypse in wintertime would suck, which is why you almost never see it in movies. The apocalypse means that every calorie is gonna 100x in price, so invest in rice while the getting is good. An entire generation raised on a disproportionate amount of meat in their diet than any other generation that came before them. Unable to tame this desire to eat mammalian flesh, they will likely resort to eating each other when they realize how hard it is to hunt animals because they have no skills to do so. Unlike them, the animals haven't been domesticated and thus retain their survival instincts. For these depraved and entitled carnivores conditioned into a life of complacency and laziness, hunting humans will simply be easier. So don't be fooled by this masquerade of civility, because in times of endless famine, drought, water shortages, and an underlying lawlessness preventing any seeds from sprouting, 7 billion humans will take to cannibalizing each other with relative ease. Clocks will run out of battery power and stop ticking, and time will actually become a commodity, not in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal one. And the sundial will get a return. Holidays, weekdays, and weekends will become days, and long treacherous ones at that. Millions of video game addicts with a totally distorted perception of what it would be like to survive an actual apocalypse will be liberated from their parents' basements to die in real life. Generation Alpha will become the first generation to tell boomers how much harder they have it as kids, and actually have substance to their claims. Without antidepressants, hundreds of millions of people will be forced to confront the reality of how much life sucks and how much it's gonna suck even more. If they don't, they will die and they won't get a participation badge, and they are going to be very offended. The distribution of STDs in these godless times will reach an all-time high thanks to nihilistic orgies, rampant sexual deviancy, and the total lack of condoms. Thus, we see a post-collapse baby boom. In a world without any contraception, it's time to repopulate the planet. Unfortunately, these births will outpace our ability to grow food. This will lead to the same cycle of Malthusian catastrophes that plagued mankind for millennia before modern agriculture was invented. To make matters worse, infant mortality will take a nosedive and the average life expectancy will go back to medieval levels to the holy age of 33. That means that every year over 33 that you survive is borrowed time. Maybe there's something to that Freemason numerology after all. To the contrary, people will be so wretched and dirty with no clean underwear that this in itself may dampen the rampant breeding just a little bit. Millions of survivalists, ex-military, ex-law enforcement, militia groups, and vestiges of the failed government will exhaust the billions of rounds of ammunition that they stored to determine who is the new king of the dying radioactive planet. Superstars will become black holes that nobody cares about because they're too busy trying to survive. Thousands of people will spend the rest of their lives trapped in elevators. Rich people whose wealth relied on digital credits that were guarded by something called the police will become, well, people. When toilets stop flushing, people will start pooping everywhere, so watch your step. Your senses will heighten to make you more attuned to the increased amount of threats in the environment, just in time for you to take in the smorgasbord of odors emanating from the literal unwashed masses. Gender roles will go pre-industrial when women realize how much dying in hand-to-hand combat actually sucks. The end of social media narcissism means that people will be forced to get self-esteem from things they actually do in real life. Not that it will matter, because who needs self-esteem when you're trying not to freeze to death? No more selfies or cell phones breaking up the flow of life's precious moments, as few and infrequent as they may be. Anyone who survives the initial disaster and lives long enough will become an Olympic caliber cyclist once the gasoline runs out, which will probably be in a matter of hours. No more hookup culture, only the one girl in that one village within cycling range for the rest of your life, bro. Divorce and separation due to petty and trivial differences in opinion will become a thing of the past. Relationships will necessarily be rekindled in times of crisis, because you won't have the luxury of chasing the elusive perfect mate who you'll just tire of in 5 years, because we live in a disposable society. Monogamy will once again prevail as the most strategic approach to survival, unless you are a polygamous plundering warlord. Anyone on steroids will grow breasts and likely become highly estrogenic, and anyone with augmented body parts, well, they're probably not going to age too well. With no fire departments and everyone lighting fires to keep warm, cities will burn to the ground. High-rise buildings specifically will be death traps. As such, after the collapse, we all come back down to earth. Purging will be a real thing, so be careful who you piss off while the getting's good. It will bring an end to the golden age of adult videos, so you will be forced to use your imagination, meaning that the current generation is screwed. Libraries will once again replace Google and become the hub for scientific inquiry. Shortly thereafter, they'll be burned down by religious fanatics who claim that they only need the word of God to survive. Coincidentally, the events in the book of Revelation will follow. GPS won't work, but it's okay because you're not going anywhere. Without modern forms of transportation, it's likely you won't be able to travel beyond a 50-kilometer radius of where you were when shit hit the fan for the rest of your short life. The streets won't get clean in winter, and they're likely going to overgrow in summer. Once again, you don't care because you're pretty much staying right where you are. Without pest control, raccoons, rodents, and cockroaches will overtake the cities to battle it out with the cats who will be hunted by a new class of urban trappers. Spent fuel rods from nuclear power plants will cook what remains of the planet. Mutants will actually become a thing. No more lengthy go-nowhere online debates. Everyone will suddenly be forced to pretend they like each other in person again before fighting to the death over the last morsels of food. No more cancel culture, because there'll just be no more culture. Just a sea of gray people in scraggly clothes. At least not until the Mohawk gets its long-anticipated return. Billions will cling to their smartphones for months, even years after the grid goes down, praying to the gods for just one more dopamine-appeasing notification. On a more positive note, no more noise pollution to worry about, except the blood-curdling screams echoing off the crumbling walls of a dying world. A pestilence no longer suppressed by the excessive use of insecticides will explode and destroy everyone's post-collapse homestead fantasy. Zoos will be hunted bone dry within a few weeks. Cattle rustling will get a return, as will public hangings. It will be the official end of toilet paper, and people will hastily wipe what remains of the world's books long before the printing press gets a return. No more borders to be enforced, just one giant post-apocalyptic shithole country called Earth. No more lawyers, sorry Mike. When there's no more rule of law, there are only executioners. The unlucky ones that survive the initial blast will likely perish due to waterborne pathogens from drinking dirty water. Millions more will die from infections that would normally be prevented by a $10 pharmaceutical purchase. Speaking of big pharma, millions of people are going to lose their minds, but at least they'll be in the right place. With no more campfire regulations being enforced, and above average levels of refugees camping who are fleeing the cities, whatever remains of the forest after 2020 will likely burn to a crisp. The discontinuation of pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere will diminish what scientists call the aerosol masking effect, which ironically will cause a rapid warming of the planet. Just like the ancient Egyptians, you'll actually be able to see the galaxy again thanks to the lack of light pollution from the cities, upon which you can develop a pseudoscience that you will use to determine when the world will end. Again. New cult startups will likely blame you for how much things suck and probably sacrifice you. Illiteracy will become common after only one generation. You'll have no idea what the weather is going to be, tonight, tomorrow, or ever again. Living in a van will be more than a trendy thing to do to get YouTube views. It will be your only choice. But the good news is, you don't have to go to work. Thanks for watching, Canadian Prepper out. The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com. your one-stop shop for premium, high-quality, brand-name products that have been tried and tested by myself and other YouTube gear reviewers. My subscribers save 10% off by using the coupon code SURVIVALPREPPER. All one word in all caps. Enjoy the time you have with your family, but stay ready.